You will not believe what Shobane just did to this entire community, and by the end of today's episode even the people who trusted him the most are left standing with their mouths open. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me who you think is the biggest villain in this story so far, because today's episode gives us a lot to talk about. Let's start with Nkwanyana, because honestly my heart goes out to her. For weeks now we have been watching people speculate about a possible love connection between Nkwanyana and Captain, and I will admit, even I got a little carried away thinking maybe, just maybe, something genuine was building between the two of them. But today's episode makes it painfully clear that Captain was never interested in Nkwanyana for who she is. He was only ever circling her because he saw an opportunity to scam her. It is heartbreaking to watch someone open themselves up emotionally only to realize the person on the other side was calculating their next move the entire time. Nkwanyana finds out she has been scammed and immediately does what any of us would tell her to do. She heads straight to the police station to report the crime. I have to give her credit for not sitting on this quietly or trying to handle it herself. She wants answers, and she wants Captain held accountable. Now let's talk about Shobane, because this man is at the center of almost everything happening in this episode. It turns out Shobane and two others end up in a clinic after their own scheme spirals out of control. The backstory here is rough. Shobane was given money, resources that were meant to help the community, and instead of using them the way he promised, he starts cutting corners. First it is small things, using the bare minimum of what was given to him, and then it spirals into something much bigger and much more dangerous. At one point he even convinces people that a motorbike can serve as a replacement for an ambulance, which sounds almost unbelievable when you say it out loud, but that is exactly the kind of reckless decision-making we are seeing from him in this storyline. This is a man who was trusted with resources meant to protect people's lives, and instead he is improvising with whatever is convenient in the moment, putting people at serious risk. Matron eventually catches wind of everything Shobane has been doing, and her reaction is exactly what you would expect from someone who put her faith in him. She does not hold back. She tells him directly that she trusted him, and that what he has done is a massive disappointment to her. There is something really powerful about watching an older, respected figure in the community confront someone she believed in. It is not just anger, it is disappointment, and honestly disappointment can cut so much deeper than anger ever could. Matron's reaction sets the tone for how the rest of the community starts to view Shobane going forward, and it is clear his reputation is not going to recover easily from this. Meanwhile we get another glimpse into just how deep Shobane's recklessness runs. He is being described as behaving irresponsibly, almost like his decision-making has completely shifted since money entered the picture. There are real questions being raised about how old Shobane actually is emotionally in this storyline, because his choices feel impulsive rather than calculated for someone who is supposed to be a grown man handling serious responsibilities. Whatever his real age is, his behavior in this episode reads like someone who has never had to face consequences before, and now the consequences are catching up all at once. Out of everyone tangled up in this mess, the person I feel the most sympathy for is Nomalanga. She is not chasing money, and she trusts Nkwanyana completely, which honestly might be her biggest weakness in this situation. I do not think Nkwanyana is going to make the smartest decision when it comes to handling this money, and this episode strongly hints that this exact issue is about to cause a major rift between the two of them. Money has a way of exposing people's true characters, and it looks like the storyline is setting up a serious fallout because Nkwanyana is not thinking this through carefully enough. There is a real possibility that she ends up flying off somewhere with money that was not fully hers to take, and if that happens, the fallout is not going to be pretty. Some viewers might want to be angry at her right away, but I think it is worth pausing and asking whether that anger is fully justified yet, or whether we are missing part of the picture regarding how she got pulled into this mess in the first place. There is also a subplot developing around whether Nkwanyana is being a good stepmother figure to the people around her, especially now that questionable money linked to the police is somehow tied back to her. This raises a lot of moral questions for the audience. Why does someone like Nomalanga have to be the transparent, trustworthy one while everyone around her seems to be cutting corners? It does not feel fair, and I think that is exactly the tension the writers want us to sit with here. Then we have Mr. Longwain, and this man is out here scamming and manipulating his own wife. That is right, Zethu's father is shown tripping up his wife financially, spending money in ways she clearly does not approve of, all while she is trying to save. She wants to be responsible with their finances, and he wants access to everything, immediately, without any real accountability. This is such a frustrating dynamic to watch play out because it shows how easily trust inside a marriage can be eroded when one partner refuses to be honest about money. Mr. Longwain is demanding access to funds without any transparency, and it puts his wife in an incredibly difficult position, especially with everything else going on around Zethu right now. Speaking of tense home situations, things are getting serious for Vusi as well. He appears to be intoxicated in scenes tied to this episode, and there are real concerns being raised about whether his drinking is connected to visions or something deeper that he is struggling with internally. Mpwanyana is shown taking on a caretaker role, trying to manage Vusi's behavior, but even she seems unsure of exactly where this is heading. We do not know yet whether Vusi's struggles are going to escalate further, but the show is clearly setting up a longer arc here that we will need to keep watching closely. Now let's shift to one of the most emotionally charged storylines in this episode, which involves Onkobo. Things reach a boiling point after a serious disagreement, and Onkobo ends up being told to leave the house entirely. Her response is completely understandable. She reminds him that this is her house too, that she is still legally and emotionally part of this marriage, and that she is not going anywhere just because he wants her out. But he pushes back hard, telling her that if she does not want to see more of him, she needs to leave immediately. It is an incredibly tense moment, and while there is no actual physical violence shown, the mere suggestion that he considered raising his hand toward her is deeply unsettling and speaks volumes about how far this relationship has deteriorated. Onkobo, understandably shaken, ends up having to sleep away from the home entirely, staying with a friend instead. What makes this storyline even more painful is the reveal that Onkobo was manipulated the entire time, and that a video which was supposed to clear things up actually came out too late to save the situation. By the time the truth comes to light, the damage to the marriage is already done. I will be honest, at this point I have lost a lot of respect for the husband in this storyline. A partner who does not stand by you, who does not defend you, and who does not believe you the first time you tell him something, does not deserve a pass just because the truth eventually surfaces. There is no excuse for how he treated her, especially when all the signs were pointing toward her innocence from the very beginning. This entire arc is a reminder that trust, once broken through public humiliation and doubt, does not simply repair itself the moment new evidence appears. Now here is where the emotional weight of this episode really lands, because we shift over to Shobane's personal heartbreak, and honestly this part hit differently. There is a sense that Shobane never wanted to go through heartbreak in the first place, that he was somewhat sheltered from it before now, and watching him experience it for the first time on screen is genuinely difficult to sit through. His reaction is not calm or measured. Instead, he turns to alcohol, showing up to work in a way that is clearly affecting his professional life, and anyone who has ever watched someone spiral after a breakup knows exactly how uncomfortable and painful that is to witness. This situation did not need to happen the way it did. Even if the marriage in question was not going to move forward, there were paths available that involved honest conversation instead of the kind of public embarrassment that ended up happening instead. Shobane deserved better than the way this unfolded, and it is clear the emotional fallout from this decision is going to follow him for a long time. On the flip side, we also see Zethu attempting to move forward from all of this. She shows up to work as though nothing happened, trying to project strength, and honestly you have to respect that kind of resilience even if it comes across as putting on a brave face. But there are people around her, including Thando, who clearly are not letting the situation go quietly. There is tension building around how the people close to Zethu are processing everything that happened, and it feels like there is unfinished business simmering under the surface that has not fully been addressed yet. We also get an update on Onkobo's situation regarding evidence tied to the manipulated video. It sounds like she is actively trying to track down proof from the person responsible for altering it in the first place, which suggests this storyline is far from over. If that video does eventually surface publicly, it has the potential to completely reshape how people in the community view what actually happened between her and her husband. There is also a smaller but very telling moment involving someone plotting against Onkobo's interests, warning others close to her not to trust her, which only adds another layer of tension to an already complicated web of relationships. It reinforces just how many people in this story are working against each other rather than being honest and upfront, and it makes you wonder how long these hidden agendas can stay buried before everything comes out into the open. And then, almost as if the universe wants to add insult to injury, we get a scene where Zethu is preparing for her wedding, trying on her dress, and something goes wrong. Red paint accidentally spills onto the dress during the fitting. Now, depending on how superstitious you are, this could easily be read as a bad omen, a signal that something is not right about this wedding moving forward. Whether the show intends for us to read into it that heavily or not, it certainly adds a layer of dramatic tension right at a moment that should otherwise feel joyful and celebratory. It is hard not to wonder whether this small accident is foreshadowing bigger problems ahead for Zethu as she gets closer to the altar. Taking a step back and looking at everything that happened in this episode, it is clear that money, trust, and heartbreak are the three threads tying every single storyline together. Shobane scamming people who trusted him with resources meant for the community sets off a chain reaction that touches nearly every character we followed today. Nkwanyana's situation with Captain shows us how easily people can be manipulated when they let their guard down emotionally. Namalanga's position reminds us that being the honest, trusting one in a group of people who are cutting corners can leave you the most exposed when things fall apart. And the Onkobo storyline is a gut punch about how quickly a marriage can crumble when doubt and manipulation are allowed to take root instead of open communication. What really stands out to me watching this episode is how the show keeps circling back to consequences. Shobane is facing the fallout of using community resources irresponsibly. Nkwanyana is facing the fallout of trusting the wrong person romantically. Onkobo's husband is going to have to live with the fact that he chose doubt over loyalty when his wife needed him most. Nobody in this episode gets away clean, and honestly, that is what makes this storyline compelling to follow. It does not feel like these characters are being punished arbitrarily, it feels like their own choices are catching up with them in real time, and that is exactly the kind of writing that keeps a soap opera audience hooked episode after episode. So where does this leave us heading into the next episode? I think we need to keep a close eye on whether Nkwanyana actually goes through with taking money that is not fully hers, because if that happens, her relationship with Namalanga may never fully recover. I also think we need to watch closely to see whether that manipulated video involving Onkobo finally surfaces, because if it does, it could completely flip public opinion on who was really in the wrong in that marriage. And of course, we cannot ignore Shobane's downward spiral, because a man drowning his heartbreak in alcohol and showing up to work affected by it is a storyline that usually does not resolve itself quietly. There is almost always a bigger moment coming. As for Shobane, I do not think this is the end of his story either. Someone who was willing to cut corners with resources meant to help people, someone who thought a motorbike could stand in for an ambulance, is not the kind of person who suddenly learns his lesson after one confrontation with Matron. I expect we are going to see him try to talk his way out of accountability in the coming episodes, and honestly, based on everything we have seen from him so far, I would not be surprised if he tries to scam his way out of this one too. That is everything for today's homecoming recap. I want to know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe Nkwanyana is going to make the wrong call with that money? Do you think Onkobo's marriage can actually be saved after everything that happened? And do you think Shobane is finally going to face real consequences for scamming the very community that trusted him? Drop your thoughts below, like this video if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe so you do not miss next episode's recap. I will see you in the next one.